Once hailed as one of Asia's fastest-growing economies, Pakistan today stands on the brink of collapse. Empty fuel stations, blackouts, spiraling inflation, and a currency that has lost over 70% of its value in just a few years. But this isn't just a story of bad economics. It's the story of a nation crippled by corruption, controlled by its military, and trapped in a global power tug-of-war between Washington and Beijing. Pakistan's external debt has crossed $134 billion as of mid-2025, almost 40% of its national income, and over 350% of its total exports. The government owes over $28 billion to China, nearly $9 billion to Saudi Arabia, and billions more to the IMF, World Bank, and Paris Club nations. Debt repayments have become nearly impossible, with over $100 billion in external liabilities coming due in the next 4 years alone. Nearly 43% of every export dollar now goes just to service existing loans. Foreign reserves have dropped to barely $8 billion, enough for only a few weeks of imports. Inflation has surged past 40%, and electricity tariffs are at record highs. The rupee has crashed from 155 rupees per USD in 2020 to nearly 300 rupees per USD in 2025. Who really runs Pakistan? It's not the parliament. It's the military establishment. For decades, the generals have dictated the country's political and economic direction, deciding which government stays or falls, and how much is spent on defense, even as citizens struggle to buy wheat. Experts estimate that Pakistan's armed forces, directly or indirectly, control up to 20% of the national economy through sprawling business empires and land ownership. While the elite remain shielded, ordinary Pakistanis face soaring prices and shrinking opportunities. For nearly a decade, China was Pakistan's financial lifeline through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a $60 billion initiative meant to transform infrastructure and trade. But much of it was financed through high-interest loans, not grants. Today, China remains Pakistan's largest bilateral creditor, holding about 22% of its external debt, worth roughly $28 to $29 billion. But Beijing's influence is fading. Projects are stalled, repayments are delayed, and trust is eroding. Gwadar Port, once the flagship of CPEC, lies half-idle as locals protest against Chinese control and unfulfilled promises. Pakistan's military, frustrated with Beijing's slow disbursements, is now turning elsewhere for support. In a quiet but strategic shift, the United States has stepped back into Pakistan's orbit. Washington, once distant, now sees Pakistan as a potential bridge into South and Central Asia, especially as tensions rise with Iran and Afghanistan remains unstable. In recent months, Pakistan and the U.S. have revived defense cooperation, intelligence sharing, and economic support talks. American aid and IMF-backed reforms are helping Islamabad regain temporary stability, but also realigning it away from China's shadow. Behind closed doors, Pakistan's generals have made their choice. Washington's dollar diplomacy is back, and Beijing's influence is being quietly pushed out. But this revival comes at a cost. Each IMF deal demands higher taxes, reduced subsidies, and strict austerity measures, crushing the poor even further. Unemployment has crossed 10%. Food inflation hovers around 45%, and over 1/3 of the nation now lives below the poverty line. Hospitals are running short of essential medicines, and factories are closing. And the dream of a new Pakistan is fading fast. Pakistan is once again caught between powers, but this time, not as a player, but as the prize. With China's investments shrinking and U.S. influence returning, the nation faces a hard truth. Economic sovereignty has become a bargaining chip. Without deep reforms, Pakistan risks becoming a rented state, surviving on loans, aid, and the goodwill of global powers. If real change doesn't come soon, default is not a question of if, but when. Pakistan's bankruptcy is more than financial. It's political and moral. And as the global powers circle around its weakness, one question remains. Will Pakistan rebuild, or will it remain a pawn in the great game of the 21st century? Because when corruption becomes the system, and survival depends on foreign masters, collapse isn't just possible, it's inevitable.